Have you ever noticed how a simple conversation or a quiet moment can suddenly feel much bigger than it actually is? As if a small stone dropped into a pond has created waves that seem far too large for the surface. It is a subtle thing, almost like a breeze blowing through a room, and bringing with it the scent of a different season altogether. A season you haven't visited in many years. If you have ever felt this way, I want to welcome you to this space and reassure you that what you are feeling is a very natural part of being a person with a history and a heart. There is nothing wrong with you, and you aren't making a mistake. You are simply experiencing the way our inner lives sometimes carry echoes of the past into the present day. Some people describe these moments as emotional flashbacks, a term that gently points to those times when a current situation feels more intense because it is vibrating with the memory of something that came before. It is as if the present moment is a thin veil, and underneath it, an old feeling is trying to speak. This is where the feeling deepens as we begin to realize that our reactions are often less about what is happening right now and more about the stories our hearts have already learned. You might find yourself in a perfectly safe, modern setting, yet your body or your mood begins to shift in a way that doesn't quite match the scenery. Perhaps a friend uses a certain tone of voice, or a room falls silent in a particular way, and suddenly you feel a sense of urgency or a need to hide, or a wave of sadness that seems to come from nowhere. Here's what many people don't notice. These feelings aren't errors in judgment, they are emotional memories. Unlike a memory that plays like a movie in your mind, where you can see the faces and the places of the past, an emotional memory is a feeling that has lost its date and time stamp. It arrives in the present, but it belongs to the past. And because it doesn't come with a visual image, it can feel like the feeling is being caused entirely by what is happening right in front of you. This is the part that can feel confusing, because your logical mind looks around and sees that everything is okay, but your heart is insisting that something is very wrong or very heavy. You might be at a dinner party or sitting at your desk, and your mind knows you are safe, yet you feel a familiar tightness in your chest or a sudden desire to pull away. It is like two different parts of you are living in two different times at once. We often think of memory as something we store in a filing cabinet, but our feelings have their own way of keeping records. They remember the patterns of how we were treated, the rhythms of the homes we grew up in, and the unspoken rules of the relationships we've had. When a present situation accidentally mimics one of those old patterns, even in a tiny way, the old feeling wakes up and rushes to the surface to protect us or to warn us. Some people notice this most when they are faced with a conflict, or perhaps even just the possibility of a conflict. A raised eyebrow or a slightly delayed response to a text message might trigger a feeling of rejection that feels 10 times larger than the situation warrants. This is where the feeling deepens again, as we start to see that we aren't just reacting to a text message. We are reacting to every time we ever felt unheard or ignored in our entire lives. It is a heavy load to carry into a simple afternoon, and yet so many of us do it every single day without even realizing it. You might find yourself apologizing when you haven't done anything wrong, or feeling a sense of dread when things are actually going quite well, simply because your inner self is waiting for the other shoe to drop, just like it used to. This is the part that can feel confusing, because it can make us feel like we are overreacting or being too much. But if we could see the layers of the past that are stacked underneath, the reaction would make perfect sense. It is a logical response to an old story that is still playing in the background of our lives. Many people notice that these echoes are most frequent when they are tired, or stressed, or trying something new, because that is when our inner boundaries are a bit more porous, and the past can slip through more easily. It can feel like a shadow that follows you, not to haunt you, but simply because it hasn't been brought into the light of understanding yet. This is where the shift begins to happen, when we start to gently observe these moments with curiosity instead of judgment. Instead of asking, "What is wrong with me?" we can begin to ask, "How old does this feeling feel?" Often, when we pause and listen to that sudden surge of intensity, we realize that the feeling feels much younger than we are. It feels like a 10-year-old's fear or a teenager's loneliness, even though we are standing there as adults in the present. Recognizing this doesn't fix everything instantly, but it creates a small, precious space between the feeling and the reality. It allows us to say to ourselves, I am feeling something very old right now. And even though it feels very real, it belongs to a different time. This is a gentle turning point, a moment of soft clarity, where we can begin to untangle the threads of then and now. Some people find it helpful to look at their surroundings and name things that are true in the present, like the color of the walls or the feel of the chair they are sitting in, just to remind their heart that the year is 2026, and they are in a different place now. It is a way of anchoring ourselves, so that the waves of the past don't pull us under. We can begin to see these emotional echoes as messengers from our younger selves, reminding us of what we've been through and how much we've grown. When we react with more intensity than a situation seems to call for, it's often just a sign that a part of us is still trying to stay safe, in a way it learned a long time ago. We can meet that part of ourselves with compassion, acknowledging the feeling without letting it drive the car. We can say to that feeling, I see you and I understand why you're here. But we are safe now. This journey toward understanding these echoes is not about making them disappear forever, but about becoming a kinder, more patient witness to our own experience. It is about realizing that we are layered beings, and that our history is always with us. But it doesn't have to define the present moment. As we become more aware of these patterns, the intensity often begins to soften. The waves become smaller and the pond becomes stiller. Because we are no longer fighting the echoes. We are simply listening to them and letting them pass. It is a beautiful thing to reach a place where you can feel a big emotion and think to yourself, ah, there is that old echo again. And then take a deep breath and stay right where you are. This gentle awareness brings a sense of calm that no clinical explanation ever could, because it comes from a place of self-love and deep, quiet understanding. You are doing a wonderful job of navigating the complexities of being human. And each time you notice one of these echoes with kindness, you are creating a more peaceful world within yourself. There is so much grace in the act of noticing, and that grace is available to you in every moment. As you move forward through your day, I hope you can carry this thought with you. Your feelings are always valid, even when they belong to the past, and you have the strength to hold them until they feel safe enough to rest. If this reflection resonated with you, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Take care.